And welcome to Geeking Off the Page. Here we are at episode 42. The life.
You're keeping track of the numbers?
Shh, don't tell them that. Anyways, episode 42. This is where we explain everything about life, the universe, and everything. But we're not going to tell you what the question is. I'm here with Michael.
Yes, you are.
And hopefully we'll get joined by Troy. Gavin opted out because he went to go see a movie, which I can't blame him on. I mean, come on.
Sounds like a cool movie.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about some things. Yes, this is a spoiler cast. So if you don't want any of these topics spoiled for you, fast forward, wait, go see it. Any of those sort of things will work. So
Control-Alt-Delete.
That works too. That's a great one. So I'm going to hand the reins over to Mike, and he's going to start us off.
Okay. So this week in pop culture, there's been a few things. The big one was Obi-Wan, but we're going to wait for Troy. The other one, which is like the best Star Trek in the last couple of decades, was the Orville. So fourth episode of this one. And again, they're sticking to everything that made the classic Star Trek great. So you have the colorful characters, you have the goofy aliens. In fact, when we were watching this, my wife was saying she thought the aliens looked way too goofy and she didn't like the designs. But it's like, oh man, this is such classic Trek. Like, you're right, they do look goofy, but in the context of the show, I think it's great. And they keep attacking these big, like, deep moral social issues, which is, in my opinion, what Star Trek's always been about, right? It's like, what is humanity? How does humanity progress forward? So you have all the cool sci-fi and ships and special effects and colorful characters and all that, but really the core thing is like, what is it to be human? And so far, 4 episodes in, every single episode has touched on something. So I don't know if you watched the last one, Trevor. Did you see episode 3?
I have not yet, but I'm
okay.
Lay it on me.
I will spoil the crap out of it, but it's great. So they go to this planet that's supposed to be uninhabited, and suddenly there's a civilization. So they're like flying by. It's like, wait a second, why is there a full civilization on this planet? It doesn't make any sense. So it's like, maybe we should check this out. So next thing you know, they're in like a year 2020 high school with a bunch of kids. They're walking through the high school. It's just like, what in the hell is going on? Again, classic Trek. Like, it doesn't make any sense. One of the characters ends up having the bullies attack him and beat him up in the bathroom and say he's got to go fight this other guy in the football field. And then it's just like this crazy dreamscape from there on. Like, it's after a character gets beaten up, their eyes go white, that flashes to something else, and then flashes to something else, and flashes to something else. In the end, they meet this alien who their species has evolved past death, and they want to see what it's like to die. So they like hijack the minds of mortals to experience that. Again, crazy idea, pulled off geniusly. And this last one is all about what's the name? The Krill, the weird, like, Dominion looking aliens, and they're trying to make peace between the Dominion. What do they call them? Is it Dominion? No, shoot, not the Federation, the Union.
Okay,
whatever they call it, basically the Federation knockoff.
Yeah.
And then there's an insurrection on the planet and a civil war. Again, it just goes completely bonkers. Turns out the captain has a daughter with the person who became the new leader who overthrew the planet. Complete insanity, but it's fun. It's like the whole ride. It's light enough that you can enjoy it. It's intense enough that the story actually means something. The characters are all acted brilliantly. And I'm watching this, things like, this is better than Obi-Wan.
You just keep poking the bear. I
am poking that bear.
I know.
All the way until Troy gets here.
Okay.
And then the other thing we've been watching is Alone. You were saying you've been watching that, right?
Yes. So my family and I, on your recommendation, started watching it. We started with season 1, and it's funny. Everyone in who's watching it, so it's myself, my wife, and my 2 daughters. We all have our favorites, who we think is going to take it to the end.
How many episodes in?
I think we're 5 in, 6 in. I'm just trying to remember exactly what episode we're in. Yeah, because we're doing. Hold on, let me see if I can. I'm just calling up Hulu to see. We're just finishing 5, so we're exactly halfway.
Okay, so who's your pick?
I think Alan's going to take it. Something about him, the guy from Georgia. He feels like he's very grounded and very solid and unflappable. Whereas other guys are like, I saw something, get me out of here. It's the wilderness. Of course, you're going to see stuff.
Yeah. The funniest thing is our family, we all made our bets, but of course, the king of spoilers, Erickson, he's like, oh yeah, I actually found out who it was going to be, but I'm going to vote for the one that I originally thought it was. It's like, you can't say anything. No, you're not allowed in this game.
Yeah. But yeah, it was like God, what was it? The guy who was afraid of bears, from the get-go, like left like not even a day in, and he left.
Yeah.
I'm like, why did you come out? Like, did you not know there's bears in the wilderness? Like, you find out 6 months ahead of time where you're going.
Yeah, you could have Googled that, dude.
Yeah, could have.
When they give you bear spray as part of your survival kit.
Yeah, you get like it's like a mace, like and you have like a flare. But it's just like, oh, I'm afraid of bears, I'm gonna leave. Now the guy who was freaked out by wolves because they were like up on the ridge behind him. No, still not. I couldn't. But the ones that got me was the guy who lost his ferro rod.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I put it on my coat and then I flipped my coat up. But there are certain things you do when you're out in the wilderness. Number one, you never put your knife down. You always put it in your sheath.
Yeah. Your
ferro rod, the second you're done using it, you put it back into whatever pocket it is that you always have it in.
Yeah.
Just, keep your feet dry. Always keep an adequate source of water. Shelter, water, your first two things. But I lost my ferro rod. You don't lose that thing.
Yeah.
Unless it's dry enough that you can do like a bow stick fire, which it is not there. I mean,
and you will not be doing that in the wet.
No, you could not put up enough friction to dry out enough to. Yeah. So second he lost it, I was like, he's gone. He's gone. He's gone.
And that's one thing I love about the show, because it shows people in these situations, because it's easy for us sitting in our little podcast booths talking about that. But after you haven't eaten for a few days and you're in that element and you start making those kind of mistakes. So it's kind of, and this is what actually, when you get down to storytelling, this is the core element of storytelling, is that somebody's telling you this story so you can learn this. So when you're in that situation, you can remember that guy who lost his little fire rod.
Exactly.
Like, oh, right. I remember that story.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put that in my pocket.
The guy drinking salt water.
Oh, yeah.
I was just flabbergasted. It's just like, well, I'm waiting for the runoff to go the other way, and then it's got to be fresh water coming. Like, no, that's not a guarantee. Unless you can find the source of that water, you can't say, well, that's going to be fine. I'm going to filter it through some moss. It'll be no. Salt water kills. It does. And then so we've gotten up to that point, and I think the most recent guy to leave, what's his name? Dustin. That's his. Like the storm freaked him out, and so he left.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of these people are just looking for an excuse to go home at that point.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like the hunger thing. So a couple of years back, my doctor recommended that I do some fasting to try to give my equilibrium a little upset, see if we can shock some changes into happening.
Yeah, I'm actually doing that now as well.
And I did a 3-day fast.
Okay.
And it sucked.
Yeah.
It really, really, really sucked. Like the first day, not so bad. You just drink water to, when you start getting hungry, you just drink large volumes of water all at once. And but yeah, by day 2, I was just getting irrationally angry at the slightest thing. And then day 3, when I could finally, at the end of day 3, when I could finally eat, it was like, oh, that's great. But the problem was, so after 3 days I ate, and that made my gallbladder go crazy. And which led to within I think about 3 to 4 months after that, I had to have my gallbladder taken out.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So yeah, because it just, I would get these attacks that would just put me to my knees. So I wouldn't recommend that, folks. Anyways, but I see these, and my dad always taught me the rule of 3.
Okay.
You can go 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food before there's no coming back. It's basically it's death is the answer at that point.
Yeah.
But watching this show and watching these guys run around on the first couple of days like chickens with their heads cut off, and some of these guys are like self-proclaimed survivalists or outdoorsmen, and I'm like,
oh, wait until season 3.
Okay.
Spoiler.
So I'm watching sometimes I'm like, if this guy's such an outdoorsman, does he term it as an outdoorsman when he takes his RV off like to the campgrounds? He's being outdoorsman then? Because yeah. And I even looked up the list of stuff, like all the 40 different items to choose from, and I got to pick 10. And I looked what each guy had selected, and I was thinking, I'm looking at some of them like, he's not surviving. I mean, the things he picked, he's gonna go like 5 days at most. And I was pretty close. I think the one guy tapped out on day 4. And I'm like, I was like, damn, I had him to 5. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this show. And this is how many seasons is this show? Like 9 so far?
9. Yeah.
So yeah.
So for us, we went season 1. We skipped season 2 because it was the same location. We want something different. So 3's in Patagonia. We'll probably skip back to 2 before we continue. But
yeah, I think they said season 2 they start having women as well, or is that season 3?
Well, there's definitely women in season 3. Since I haven't seen 2, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
and in season 3, these women are hardcore. Some crazy hippie chick who builds a house and a sauna and like wind chimes in a chair. It's like, what in the hell?
Yeah.
Another one who's just like sleeping outdoors while like wildcats are after. It's nuts. Yeah.
So I'll look forward to that. Yeah, I was just because I think I remember seeing a blurb about they opened up the gender qualifications for season. I think it was they said 2. So I don't know if it was 2 or 3, but I'm looking forward to that. I'm having a great time with this show. It is so much fun. Because the thing is, it's not like the Bear Grylls survival where you've got like 8 guys behind him with like boom mics and cameras and shit like that. And they're like, "Ooh, the following sequence has been set up to kind of portray a lesson." These guys aren't doing setups to portray a lesson. It's just this is what they're going through.
Yeah, and it's like Survivor Man. I think I said this last time.
Les Stroud was that guy had all of my respect when he did the Arctic, where he's burning through like 6,000 plus calories a day, and he's surviving on like 1,100 calories. Like he lost so much weight on that trek.
That one where he tried to build the igloo. Yeah, he just didn't have it in him. It was like, this is my igloo. It's a couple blocks with a tarp over it.
Yeah, he's like, I just don't have the energy to finish this off. And I'm like, man, what you did do is incredible. And the fact that he doesn't like to carry a rifle, but he had to because of polar bears.
Right.
It's just
like you're not allowed to do the show without this.
Yeah,
and then he started a fire with it.
Yeah. He was like, well, I'll use the gunpowder and make a fire, and it's like you have to carry a rifle because if a polar bear catches your scent, which they can do from miles and miles and miles away, they will not stop until they reach you.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh well.
Yeah, and that's what's so much fun with Alone, because it has that Les Stroud feel. Right, where you have like 10 survivor men in the wilderness.
Yeah,
and when we were watching season 1, the whole family was like, "Are they going to make it to day 7?" It's like day 1 gone, day 3 gone, but like they start dropping like flies.
Oh, they did.
But everybody who's made it past day 7, it's like, oh, they're doing better than Survivor Man.
Oh yeah,
of course. Les Stroud has done that. Oh, what's it? Horseshoes and Solitude, I think, was his documentary where he lived a year in the wild. So I mean, okay. He's hardcore.
He's done this.
Yeah.
But yeah, see these, I like just the guy, like, I'm not tech savvy. I don't know how to charge this. It's the battery sign's flashing at me. I don't know how to fix that from here. So I got to go back to my camp.
Yeah. I'm actually curious about the behind the scenes. Like, how does that work with the cameras? Right. Because obviously you got to recharge the battery somehow. You got to deliver the film somehow. Like, is there drop off?
Well, I have a feeling it's when you quit, that big box you bring with you, they go through and then they just edit everything.
Yeah, I guess so. Then maybe that box has enough batteries to last a year,
or if they say because they are checked upon by medical personnel like throughout the time. So probably when the medic comes in and checks them, checks blood pressure and stuff like that. Yeah, they swap out the batteries for fresh ones and make sure there's enough or download all the footage or however they're taping it, sort of thing. So
Yeah, it's fascinating. But that's the thing that's fun. Again,
yeah, you're
we're
speaking
like
to this,
this
so like, how are they
because like
doing
this
it?
is why we got into animation and special effects and all that, because you watch a show, it's like, this is really cool.
Yeah,
How did they do that?
exactly. So yeah, I've been really enjoying it. As I said, we're 5 episodes in. We've been watching it now. I think 5 days. We're doing like the first night we did 2 episodes, and then the next night I think we did 2 episodes. Then we skipped a night because just everything going on. Mare was on call, and then tonight we did an episode. So, but we're gonna have to put it on hold because the girls are going off to camp for like a week,
Mm.
and because they're really invested, we don't want to watch ahead and spoil it on them. Oh, we can watch that later. We're on to season 2. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't want
we
to do
know who
that.
wins. Spoiler.
Yeah, I don't want to do that, but I kind of do. Because I don't know if I can wait a whole week to find out what happens to these guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's what we've been doing with the loan. Other than that, other shows I watched, The Boys, Miss Marvel.
All right, so let's start with The Boys.
Oh gosh, so this is the episode that they were told they shouldn't do, they couldn't do, and they did.
Did they?
They were told they couldn't do it, and this is the Hero-gasm. And so in the comics, the whole idea is the Seven and other superheroes claim they're going off planet to fight aliens or a different dimension, and in essence, they're going to a private island to have a giant like drug-fueled sex orgy.
Epstein Island, basically.
Basically, but I think they kind of changed some things here because Epstein. So instead they go to a pair of the old what's his face, Soldier Boy's old team. There's two of the it's like a brother sister duo called TNT. They have a house like up in Virginia, and they're hosting the Hero-gasm. And this is something the one character, Frenchie, has heard about and has always tried to get his way into, but could never find it. So they make constant reference of, man, I bet Frenchie wishes he was here right now. He's dealing with his own shit at the same time. So anyway, so this episode starts with Homelander realizing that Soldier Boy's alive. Soldier Boy's statue is outside of Vought Tower. He was the original hero. He's what Homelander's in the shadow of. And I'm not going to say he's scared of him, but he is. He is. I mean, it's like facing your mentor sort of thing. Do you have what it takes to overcome your own mentor? More on that later with Obi-Wan. Anyways, so Butcher and Huey help Soldier Boy track down the former teammates of TNT, not realizing that they're hosting the Hero-gasm. So they show up and it's in full swing. And they're met at the and it was funny. It's MM and oh god, what's her name? Annie. It's around the tip of my mind. Starlight. They show up at the door. They knock at the door. Opens up. Who's there but Love Muscle, the guy with the prehensile penis, like the 20 foot, 10 foot. Who knows how long this thing is? It grows as it needs to, and it's like a snake up behind them and right in their faces. And they recognize
like a Doc Ock arm.
Yeah. So they recognize Starlight as, oh yeah, you're a hero. Come on in. And they're like, well, he can't come in. He's not a hero. I'm like, oh, he's great with his tongue. So they're like, sure. They go in, and it is, it's wall-to-wall nudity. You have girl on girl, guy on girl, girl on guy, guy on guy action. It's just going. This guy walks by, and his junk is literally on fire. He is a fire crotch. It's just flaming away. Yeah, and like guy makes like a giant ice dildo and right in. And one guy even mentions, all the human sex workers here are just basically being tortured and abused. It's just the supers having their way with them and using their powers nilly-willy. And it's just it's terrifying that, because then you get the ramifications of like, other comic book genres and series, DC and Marvel doing the same, and you're like, oh god. And like the termite pops out of this girl and brushes up against MM, who's huge OCD about being clean, and he's got like this big swath of stuff down his coat. He's like, this is my favorite coat. And he's like, I need a bathroom. And he runs over to the door, goes to open. The guy's like, I'm about to unload. And it's like they threw a giant 5-gallon pail of white liquidy Vaseline at him, and it just and it's just like, I know what that's supposed to be, but yeah. So this episode, yeah, they're like, yeah, we've done a little bit of nudity here, a little bit of, they went full force on this, and it's just the depravity of just like what's going on. What superheroes with their various powers, what would they do in this situation? And it's horrifying. It really is. Which is one of the reasons why I love this show, is because they're putting a real world spin on comic books.
Have you read the comic for this
I
one?
have
Like
read
the
this
Herogasm?
actual. I have read this actual issue, and there are many variations from what like deviations from what they did with the comic book, but this is handled so well. It truly advances the storyline, and like A-Train finally catches up with the Blue Hawk, who has crippled his brother. Now, A-Train's not supposed to run anymore. He's not supposed to go to super speed, because if he does, his heart could explode. And he finally has enough of this Blue Hawk, so he just grabs him by the ankle and runs. This guy's face down, and he just runs down the road. And this guy's superpower is being strong, but he's not very durable, because when A-Train finally like staggers to a stop, you see this guy. You can see ribs. He's got road rash to death. And he was only wearing his helmet when this run started. And the helmet got left behind spinning when the run started. So yeah, it's all road rash. It's just a lot of it's gone. And then, A-Train takes a couple steps. You can hear his heartbeat. It's like almost like a hummingbird. And then it just suddenly does a couple of quick slow beats, and then no beat. And he's on his back and gasping. And so we don't know if he's dead or not. We don't know, did his heart explode, or is he going to survive this? Because up until now, Homelander and the Deep have been like, come on, run at me, bitch. That sort of thing, knowing he can't use his powers, or it's game over for him. So they've been taunting him with this. Well, finally he got pushed and gave a full burst. But the big thing is, so Homelander and Soldier Boy and Butcher, who's powered up with his temporary powers, they duke it out. Homelander eventually just jets out of there. We realize he's overmatched, especially with the two of them. But it's so Starlight's there, and Soldier Boy lets loose this big blast of radiation that he's kind of like has been thrust upon him since his time in Russia, and just devastates everything. And he kills 12 supers and countless wounded. And she's there helping, kind of pick up the pieces. And she tells MM to hold her phone at her. And she goes, and now up to earlier in this point, someone tried to coerce her into using her 130 or 189 million live stream subscribers to lend some influence. And she was like, I don't think so. So she turns the camera and she's like, this is what happens. Vought's going to try to, sweep it under the carpet and call it this. This is what really happened. I'm Starlight no longer. My real name's, like Annie January, and I'm done. And she just walks out of camera. And you're like, oh, holy. It honestly would be like an A-lister celebrity suddenly facing a live camera and saying, fuck y'all, I'm done. And I quit.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And it's funny, they have like the little messages on the side that people are typing. One of them was, tell me what to do.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it was a great episode. It was so much fun to watch.
Oh man, what I wanted to do is a little bit of a deep dive into the Garth Ennis, because like I've said before in previous podcasts, this original comic, The Boys, didn't really connect with me because Garth Ennis humor, I like his serious Punisher stuff. I like his war stories. But when it's his comedy, it is just like a little off track from the stuff that connects with me. Like, it's funny. I read the Punisher Marvel Knights. Geez, what was the artist? Dylan? We'll Google it. But that one, where he's going around like taking out superheroes and stuff, is very boys vibe. But that one didn't connect with me as much as, say, the Punisher Max, where it's hardcore Frank Castle just going on full Punisher mode and wiping people out. But I'm curious to do a deep dive into just what he was thinking when he was writing things about this. Like when he was writing Herogasm, what was going on there?
so I've read a fair number of the different boys issues. Like I didn't collect I was just like an issue here, issue there, just kind of see what's going on. I think I like the series over the comic.
Okay.
I think the writing, just how to put it, it's the writing, it's the actors, what they bring into it. Sometimes it's with just expressions on their faces or the reaction to what's going on around them. Like it's just so much more than what the comic could offer. Like a comic is nice because you can always pause at a panel and really, give it the deep look and see every little iota.
And also that's the seminal idea. Like that's the thing that it's, from the writer and artist, blam on the page.
Yeah.
Whereas but then the actors and directors and whoever else like add, it's like layers.
Yeah,
like,
it's their interpretations. Like Kripke has just really taken this and run with it hard, and it makes you want to. You'll watch an episode and you're like, I didn't get all that. I'm going to watch it again. And there are a couple episodes I've watched 3 and 4 times. And at the end of that viewing, I got an entirely different message out of it. Or it's the B-roll story. I pay more attention to that because the A-roll, and it was like, whoa, what went on with the A story? I'm going to go watching just for the B story. And you realize with the B story, there is a huge story brewing there that threatens to spill out into A or even take over A.
Right.
And it's smart writing backed up with incredible acting. I mean, all of these actors and actresses are just acting the shit out of this show. Like every one of them, it's almost like a competition. Who can steal the scene in this particular? And it's almost like, especially if you have like 2
in a good
actors,
way.
They look at each other and like, fuck it, I'm going to take the scene. I dare you to try to out act me on this one. But it raises the bar every scene. Like it elevates what you would normally see to something even that much better. And it's such a joy to watch. It really is. So if you're not watching it yet, subscribe to Amazon Prime and watch it.
Oh, right. I'll start getting in there. Yeah. I'll get there.
You'll get there eventually. All right, we're going to take a brief pause to listen to our station advertisers, and we'll be right back. Wow, who knew you could do that with soap bubbles? Anyway, Mike, you were going to tell us about this, the next thing?
Yeah, the next thing, Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. So have you seen that one, Trevor?
I have not. Again, it's on my list of things to watch, but this week has been hectic.
I had no intention of watching it, but because I keep shooting my mouth off that the Orville is the greatest Star Trek in the last 2 decades, and people are saying Strange New Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right, I'll give it a chance. And I will say it's probably the best Star Trek, like of actual licensed Star Trek in the last couple decades.
Okay.
But I would still say Orville beats it as what the original Roddenberry Star Trek's supposed to be.
It's kind of like the way like Galaxy Quest is one of the better Star Trek films.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So the things that I did like about it is like first of all, the design of it is great because it's kind of like if you know how you can like do a morph slider and you can take like classic Trek and then like J.J. Abrams Trek and put it on a slider and do like this weird morph between them.
Yeah.
This finds like a nice slider point where it keeps all the original Star Trek stuff, like the square captain's chair and like the essence of it, but upgrades it. So as far as the art design, try to keep the old school look with the modern, I guess, technology.
Yeah.
They do a really great job of that.
Okay.
The stories seem a little bit better than any other Star Trek I've seen. It's still a little bit social justice-y. It's a little bit pretentious. They have to like, oh geez, I don't even remember the character's name.
Save people from themselves.
I didn't do my homework, but there's basically the Sulu character, which is the woman with the shaved side of her head. And she does these facial expressions every single scene where it's kind of like she ate a lemon. and I just find it offensive. It's like, okay, I don't care what the character's haircut is and all that kind of stuff, but like, don't look like you're eating a lemon every single scene because it just takes away from the shot. It's just too much. So yeah, that's a little bit annoying. But
Is her name
Captain
Lan Noonien Singh? Laan?
let me check.
Chief of Security, or
Okay, we're gonna go to Google here.
or is she the helmsman?
Helmsman.
All right, so that's
Where's Helmsman?
Erica Ortegas.
That sounds right, because I did do a search on her. We're gonna have to maybe edit some of this out, or you can just watch us as we search through Google.
Yeah, there we go. Isn't it exciting to watch me Google?
That's amazing. But so that kind of stuff just is enough to pop me out of the episode where, you know, you just kind of cringe a little bit. The stories are okay, but again, I would give Orville the upper hand. Like, Orville seems more hardcore Trek, whereas this is kind of like, man, but again, it's like that slider. It's closer than it has been in a long time.
Okay.
So yeah, I think I'm like 2.5 episodes in. It's bad enough where the third episode I'm like, yeah, I don't need to watch it all right now. So anyways, that's my first impression of Star Trek Strange New World. So not horrible, not great. There's a lot of stuff they did right, a lot of stuff they did wrong.
Okay.
I'm kind of curious to see if it can evolve. And like, you know, there's always that thing that happens with TV shows where the first season they're trying to get their footing and it's not quite there.
Yeah.
And then they finally kind of get into the groove. It's like, oh, we got this now. We know the things that work and we're going to go
get
for
canceled.
it. Only if you're Firefly. No, I guess they got canceled the first season.
Yeah. It's like, we found our groove. Now we know what we want to do.
Yeah. Well, on Netflix for sure. But anyway, if they can kind of tap into the stuff that's working, kind of ditch the stuff that's kind of empty baggage and it's not really working, it could be a really great show. Some of the casting I think is a little off. Like, even though the Spock performance is good, but it doesn't quite feel like Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
You know, it's just enough where I'm like kind of popped out of character. And then they brought, what's his name, Sam Kirk onto the
Kirk's brother.
Yeah, so they kept talking about Lieutenant Kirk, and I'm like, oh my god, they're really going to bring in Captain Kirk? No, they're not.
Well, I did read a story earlier this week that they've already announced that James T. Kirk will be in the second season. They've already cast him.
Okay,
so I don't know.
It'll be interesting to do
show up, or I don't know if he's going to be on the ship or he's visiting his brother, or what the case may be.
Yeah, so see, that could be fun, and that's where they could find their groove and start getting to some really fun, interesting stuff. Yeah. But so overall, you know, it's like, it's not terrible. It could be great. It, you know, it has the potential, but we'll see where it goes from there.
All right. So also this week out on Disney Plus, before we get to the big one, was the third episode of Miss Marvel. And so the original character, Miss Marvel, her power is basically like Mr. Fantastic. She can enlarge. In beginning, she can enlarge her limbs, sort of thing. In the show, instead, they kind of it's more energy based as opposed to like swelling up her forearms or something like that.
And actually, with what I've seen, which is nothing except the trailer, I kind of liked it because it doesn't, kind of take over Mr. Fantastic's ability.
Exactly. I like it too. So they explain it as she is, through her grandmother, she is part Jinn, which are a race of enhanced beings from a different dimension. And her grandmother and a group of them were exiled to Earth and have been trying to get back the whole time. And this cuff kind of unlocked those genes that Kamala had the whole time. And so she does not, she's still not quite sure how they work. And we find out there was actually two cuffs, not just one, but they tried to go ahead with just one and make a rift to get back, and it didn't work. And they're very, very old. also. So they try to get Kamala to open up a rift for them. She ends up, it's her brother's wedding. She's like, we'll do it tomorrow, sort of thing. Like, let me enjoy my brother's wedding. And the main woman's like, screw that. We've been waiting so long. We're not waiting another day. So they attack the wedding. So, hijinks ensue, as they usually do. And at one point, she tries to use the bangle and she triggers a vision of a train from, oh God, it had the Karachi, had like the city of Karachi was posted on the front of the train. And so Department of Damage Control, who need their own show up. They ended up capturing they're called the clandestines.
I agree. They need their own show.
Yeah, they're hidden in the shadows, sort of thing. And Kamala's best friend, not the guy, the girl, sees her using her powers the first time and is all pissed that Kamala felt like she couldn't trust her with the secret of these powers. Anyway, she runs home, and then her grandmother phones her up out of the blue and says, you and your mom have to come to back to Pakistan. We have to go to Karachi. And she's like, what? And she's like, Kamala, I saw the vision. Didn't you see the vision of the train? You got to get here. So now we know the grandmother is somehow connected with this and potentially her own mother. So I don't know. Are they going to Pakistan next episode? Who knows? But I like the way they're taking this character because she's not like some combat god that, you're attacked by 7 people and goes, very easily, just, it's a lot of like something's coming at her from the side and she's freaking out and makes a shield, doesn't know how to hold it or sustain it, but it's all like just panic back and forth. And I mean, these people they've been here a while. They're pretty well trained. So yeah, she's not putting up much of a fight for them, but she's putting up enough of a fight to make it annoying for them and to stall long enough that the Department of Damage Control shows up. So, and one of them turns on the rest of the group, but that's besides the point.
Like Princess Leia running from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Exactly. Oh God. Well, you keep bringing that up, aren't you? Anyways, yeah. So I've been enjoying this show. I like the fact that the heroes aren't the classic square-jawed, blonde hair, blue-eyed, big muscled heroes that that Marvel usually throws out into the world. So
I do still wish Flash Thompson was that in Spider-Man.
Yeah, me too. But you can't always get what you want.
Now, do you know if this story follows the comics at all? Because I didn't read the comics.
No, I think this because they've changed the nature of her powers. They've had to change the origin of her power, so this is completely spun into a new direction, which we're going to see more of when they show them when the Miss Marvel's movies come out. Maybe we'll see like, do all the people in the dimension that these people come from have these powers, or is it only when you come to Earth that you gain it? Like, we'll have to wait and see. Mm-hmm. But so far, I'm enjoying it.
So 3 episodes in, it's all good.
Yeah, so far all good. I mean, they have 3 more episodes to screw it up because so far Disney's got a pretty good track record.
Oh, they got a great track record for that.
Yeah,
they messed up Hawkeye. Damn it.
Yeah, they do. They that's what they do.
Hey, this is Troy, just one of the other guys from the podcast. I'm just going to cut in here now. I know I'm not part of this full episode and all that, and I was mentioned at the beginning of this episode that I was going to be there, and unfortunately, technical things have just kept me away. But this is a little bit of an extra that I am putting in about my experience about seeing the Obi-Wan Kenobi series on the big screen in the theater, the whole entire 6-part show being shown in the theaters in front of a crowd of like-minded Star Wars fans. So this is what I got. When it comes to Star Wars, out of this group, I can say that I am the biggest fan. I'm the one that will go to bat for support all things Star Wars. Even the worst of the galaxy far, far away, I will still find something that I'll enjoy. It has been with me for a very long time. It is part of the building blocks of who I am. So no matter what my opinion, remember that it has been the activity/event that my parents, my brother, my core group of friends, something we've always had in common. Star Wars is in my DNA. In my humble opinion, the original trilogy cannot be touched. Included were the toys, the collectibles, the merchandising, and yes, even the holiday special. But once that was over with, it was then followed up by the new expanded EU, where it had started off with the Timothy Zahn Thrawn trilogy. And while the novels at that time are no longer canon, the ideas that were inherent in those early novels are slowly but surely making their way into the current timeline of what is now being perceived as the new Star Wars. Lucas's prequels was something to actually witness, that was wonderful to witness at the age that I was when that happened. Having met my fellow podcasters prior to this, the time that we spent together went through the release of the special editions, the countless hours of playing the role-playing game, hanging out in our college library, watching the widescreen THX VHS version of the movies, all huddled around a tiny little TV, all with headphones on. The prequels brought on a whole new batch of extras, like animation, more toys, more merchandising than ever before, a resurgence of the classic trilogies, and even more EU in comics and novels. Now that brings us to the Disney era. The current and possibly the most diversive version. Being backed by the House of Mouse, we get a steady flow of media, tons of new movies, boatloads of more merchandise, and even bigger resurgence of the classic trilogy. But like I said, this version of Star Wars seems to be the most divided when it comes to the audience. However, personally, I've always enjoyed Star Wars and was aware of the changes in its perspective, of its intended audience, and knowing Disney wasn't going to drop the title anytime soon, that no matter what, if you didn't like a particular Star Wars, wait a second, because there's another one coming along. And that brings us to Disney Plus and all of its offerings, with its continuation of the Clone Wars, the introduction of Rebels, and its live-action series. The post-Jedi era, where The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett fall, where they seem to be building a strong base, with a few more series adding to that in the upcoming future. However, that all leads us up to the latest offering that Disney Plus has decided to give us, and that's the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Now, what I can surmise is that the one thing that can be completely agreed upon is that Ewan McGregor, his portrayal of the iconic character played by the equally iconic Alec Guinness, is the stand-up performance of the prequel trilogy. So when, many moons ago, Disney announced that they were going to bring us a series that covers the years between the end of Revenge of the Sith and the beginning of A New Hope. And that's when things got exciting. The Mandalorian turned out to be a hit. The Book of Boba Fett was a surprise. Kathleen Kennedy announces that Ewan McGregor has signed on to do this series. Deborah Chow joins to direct. Hayden Christensen is added to the cast. Ideas start building. Intrigue intensifies. The trailer is released. Visions of classic Star Wars are very present. And then it is released. Weekly release of this series is an interesting way to view this 6-part saga. Having a week between each episode allows you to deep dive into the background of almost every single shot, to be able to find all the Easter eggs, to go on the internet and find others that have, translated the languages and given you, hey, this person is from here, and if this person means this and whatnot. It has allowed us to discover how much the actual creators do love this series, to be able to pull upon all of the eras to make it a cohesive series. That's biggest stumbling block is to be pigeonholed into this tiny little era of time in history. We know how it ends. We know how it's going to be later on, so it's a difficult thing to pull off from the get-go. Like, For example, there's no way that Obi-Wan Kenobi wasn't going to survive this series. Any of the other main characters that do exist beyond this point were definitely not going to die off. So a bunch of the whole entire suspense of the story has been sort of squashed. So you have to introduce the new elements. You have to introduce the stuff that we're going to see later on. So it became a very, as I said before, a daunting task. Now, while I haven't been present for all of the other podcasts where my fellow podcasters have talked about the episodes, I am aware of what they said. And I know what they've liked, I know what they've hated, and I know what they've wished they could be able to get in there and rewrite. So they are all valid points that they have. And again, I would agree with almost 100% of everything that they've said. Now, as for my opinion, it's going to be a little off to the side because of what I've said earlier. I was destined to like this series. It had all the elements that I look for in my Star Wars. It has the actors I like, it has the characters I like, it has the time period I like, it has what perceived to be the setting that I enjoy going back to all the time, and that's the reason why I keep going back to it, because it gives me this thing that I remember from growing up as a kid. Now, unfortunately, they are going to discuss the final episode, and again, I'm unable to join in on that actual conversation. I maybe will record something else afterwards to put into, but again, I have to wait until I actually hear their conversation about this episode to figure out what I'm going to input into it. But what I'm here actually to do is to get across to you, the listener/viewer, the idea of what the event was that I took place this past Wednesday, the 22nd, as the premiere of the final part of Obi-Wan Kenobi premiered. Now, I put up on YouTube, you can go to Planet Geek Productions and search for that. And there is a video that I shot, a sort of a quick little vlog of pretty much the progression of the day of what happened. So you get to experience what I went through for that whole entire day to be able to view the Obi-Wan Kenobi. Have the Obi-Wan Kenobi experience event that took place downtown Toronto, Scotiabank Theatre. It was put on by the Disney Canada. It was also presented by the 501st and the Rebel Legion. A friend of mine who is part of the 501st got me an invitation and was able to go to this. And it was kind of cool. It was a fantastic thing. Just imagine it was going to like a midnight showing of a movie that everyone's there to see this movie, are fans of the movie and all that. So it's going to be a fun time. It's going to raise the level of enjoyment no matter what. If I'd seen this show first thing in the morning, I probably wouldn't. I take that back. The final episode, fantastic. Whether I saw it at home first or the first time I saw it was in the movie theater with a crowd full of people that were all there seeing it for the first time. The event had both Deborah Chow, the director, and Hayden Christensen, Darth Vader, at the event. They were there when we arrived. Hayden Christensen was out in the lobby signing autographs for people. They came in, they did a Q&A after the whole entire event. It was a great time. Got to hear a lot of insight. And in the video, I do have a good portion of what that Q&A is. Unfortunately, my camera was not that great to begin with, and unfortunately it crapped out on me near the end. So unfortunately, it wasn't able to get any more footage out of it. But again, it was quite the experience. The way that I got to experience Obi-Wan Kenobi in the movie theater is probably the way that the actual series should have been viewed. It was nice seeing it laid out week to week. You always look forward to that next episode. But the actual whole entire thing flows being played back to back. And that's how, like I said, we watched it. We watched episode 1 through 6 back to back. And it is the way that it should have been. It is a long movie, but it is a very entertaining movie, with the episodes being like, this is definitely has to be a binged movie. It's the way that this should be viewed. You shouldn't have the time to breakdown. You can do that afterwards. You can figure out whatever's afterwards. I mean, going into it, watching it week to week, again, like I said, you're able to see people breaking down the videos. This is what you missed. The 27 things you missed in this week's episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I will admit, I went through most of those. I went through the articles. I wanted to see what I didn't catch, or if the thing that I had a question about was true, and then that's what it was. So, but the nice thing is you get a feel of how long the actual show took. From the point that Obi-Wan leaves Tatooine to go on the actual adventure of the actual episode in the recovery of Princess Leia, it seems to be a linear time. It seems to take place in real time almost. Maybe a little more longer than real time and all that, but up until that whole entire thing, it is basically 2, maybe 3 days at most. And that is how long the actual show takes. It's not like an actual movie where you can never really tell how long Empire Strikes Back took. Was it a week? Was it a month? How long did they spend traveling through hyperspace and all that? So it's also, again, going to be, my opinion of this is going to be skewed again, because I saw it in a way that not very many people saw. If you were to ask anyone else that was in the theater, they're going to say the same thing. It was a fantastic thing to watch on the big screen. Again, movie theater, big screen, filled with 500 plus people, all there for the same reason, to watch Star Wars. And a great thing about it is there was a good 90% of us that had not seen the actual final episode. So when that whole entire thing aired, up to that point, everyone was very a snicker here at a laugh, or hey, that's kind of cool. Everyone cheering every single time the Lucasfilm logo came up in each episode, or Obi-Wan Kenobi showed up. That was cool. But yeah, everyone was very like, hey, we've seen this is great, all right, cheering at the end of each episode. But when episode 6 came out and the audience was just swept up in every single thing, we laughed, we were dumbstruck, we were cheering, Obi-Wan does the things with the rocks, the audience explodes when he starts bashing in Vader's chest, and Vader admits that he killed Anakin. It was, oh my god. And so everyone, and then of course at the end there's a video out there, search for it. It was filmed at, I think it was our theater, but the end, when Obi-Wan goes to meet Luke, and we just exploded in cheers when he said hello there, and everyone was like he's gonna say it, he's gonna say it, and then hello there. The audience just goes nuts. Search for it. The video's out there somewhere. It's just fantastic. And then music playing and everyone's cheering and all that. The lights in the theater come up, and then we're all getting set up to get ready for the Q&A. And lo and behold, as the closing credits are rolling, walking down the steps, being escorted by his, just being escorted down the steps, Hayden Christensen. Hayden Christensen sat in the theater with a full audience reacting to the episode. And I gotta say, that just was so cool, and he was so appreciative too. From the Q&A, he mentioned that he was like blown away by the reaction, and he had only just seen the episode the day before, so this was basically his second time watching the episode. And of course, first time, you're not gonna have the reaction that you did there. Like, you're seeing it, from his point of view, that's cool, because you see all the stuff that they did over a year ago filming, how it culminated in this one episode. But then to sit in a theater and hear an audience react to it, and hear how they interact with what's happening on screen, it's got to be mind-blowing. And It was so fun. I mean, I want to thank everyone that allowed me to be able to see this, because I'm so thankful that I was, first of all, able to be a plus one, that the 501st put this on, that Disney presented it, Scotiabank held it, and all that sort of thing. I mean, and the fact that Toronto-based Deborah Chow, well, not Toronto-based, she's not Toronto-based now, but she from Toronto, and Hayden Christensen from Toronto and all that. That was so cool that the Canadians were actually at this Canadian production display of the show. It was just so fantastic. And again, watching it week to week, you pointed out the flaws because you had the time to digest and figure out, well, why didn't he do this? Well, why didn't he do that? I mean, the whole entire fire thing with Vader sets the fire and then blows it out, but then it gets set on fire again, and Vader decides not to put it out for some strange reason, or is stopped because of it. And okay, you know what? It's plot armor. You can't have the two of them go at it right now. But yeah, it was just a fantastic couple of hours. It was Star Wars. It was fun. It was fandom, and again, it had been forever since I had done something where it was that much of a fun time. I got to see a bunch of friends that I hadn't seen like forever. Now, I wasn't able to have like big conversations with anyone. There was a lot of like, hey, how you doing? Oh, long time no see. Like, because everyone's so busy, and a lot of the people that I did recognize were 501st, so they were running stuff and all that, so it's not like I can distract them too much from everything. But it was just such a fun time, and the series is fantastic. Do yourself a favor, and if you haven't watched it at all, like, watch them all in one time. It's a 5 and a bit hour setting, but it works out so cool. I guess it's a little less than 5. It's around 5, right? Because they're not full hour episodes and all that, which is another reason why I think it was a good idea that they weren't full hour episodes. But yeah, so look, it's going to be impossible for anyone else to see this series the way that I was able to see it, and I am very thankful that I was able to see it the way I was able to see it. And that's all I have to say about Disney Plus's Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Only that I hope we get another one, because another season, because well, Ewan McGregor has said that he would definitely want to do a second season, so that is for sure. But yeah, so that being said, thanks for tuning in, and let's see what else we got on here.
It looks like Troy is not going to join us, so this train's going to have to pull into the station of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Episode 6. Mike, would you like to take the lead on this one?
How much time have we got?
Not enough.
Oh, geez. Where do we start with this? Okay, let's start with like the meta concept of what this whole series could be. Essentially, you have two of the greatest Jedis in the Star Wars universe. One's living on a desert planet. The other one is just coming up the ranks of the Imperial Army. And, you know, you just need to find a reason for them to interact. It can be anything. But essentially, it would be sort of like the Terminator, where you have this mad Sith who's been let off his leash to go hunt down Obi-Wan. Or you could have Darth Vader's doing some crazy crap, like, because in this era of the Empire, you know, you still have senators, you still have ambassadors. There's still this facade, like the Senate's in place. It hasn't been dissolved yet.
Yeah, that happens in Episode 4.
Yes. So there's still this sort of fake notion that this empire is kind of holding,
still exists.
Right. Exactly. And so there's delegations, there's ambassadors, there's council meetings. You know, people still have their planets like Alderaan. You know, it hasn't been blown up yet. But the Empire's got the plan in place to make the super weapon that'll just blow away anybody who's trouble. But we're not there yet. So there's so much fun that could be had. Again, pulling, like we've talked about this before, you pull into the samurai movies, you pull from the World War II, World War I movies. Like, what happens in that kind of war environment? So like in all these, anytime there's a war, you always have these delegation meetings. You always have these people in suits talking a lot and all that. So you could introduce a character, who's controlling Darth Vader, who's still not the Jedi Master yet, or the Sith Master, right? He's still but a student, right? So he's not maximum power yet. He's not controlling fleets. He's not sitting on thrones. He's not doing any of that kind of stuff. He's just this mad Black Knight who just wants to go hack up a bunch of people. So you could have, some sort of conflict between the Empire and some planet who doesn't want to give in to the Emperor's rule. And they're like, oh, screw it. You know what? Send in Vader. It's like, Vader, take care of them as you wish, Master. And he's just like hacking up people and going with stormtroopers and just like destroying planets. That's what I want to see. And then some reason Obi-Wan has to get lured in. And I think it would be fun. Like, I hated how in this series, how Third Sister's like, Anakin, he's still alive. Anakin's alive. Oh, like, I don't care. This isn't a good payoff. How cool would it be if Obi-Wan realizes that there's this mad Sith hacking up everybody? He goes in like a rogue samurai to stop him. And then you get the helmet moment that happens in this episode where it cuts open and you realize, oh my God, this is Anakin. Like, for me, something like that would be so much more powerful. But the amount of missteps that they've had through this whole series, it's like you had 6 episodes where you could have created this greatest Star Wars story that's happened in like 30 years. And instead it becomes this weird jumbled mess with so many holes in it. And at the beginning, I thought there was a chance there. I thought they did a couple clever things in episode 1 and 2 where they could build on it and come up with something.
And they didn't. They really didn't.
Not at all. I'll stop my diatribe. What did you think, Trevor?
All right, so I'm gonna give a quick recap. So this episode starts with Reva going to Tatooine to hunt down Luke, or hunt down Owen first and then get Luke. Meanwhile,
and even that, I gotta jump in here. I'll just do it really quick though. What the hell? Why is Reva going after Luke? None of this makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, I know you have this rogue Sith. Okay, not a Sith, but red lightsaber.
Yeah.
Like, Luke's supposed to be in hiding. It should have stayed that way. Okay, continue.
Yeah. So the cargo ship's still fleeing from the Star Destroyer. Kenobi jumps on a ship and flies off, and Vader's desire to go after Kenobi, they divert the whole fleet after.
I gotta jump in there real quick. With that sequence with the Star Destroyer flying after the ship, my son said, man, that feels like Star Wars. Like, yeah, because that's the opening shot of the original Star Wars. Oh yeah, that's why.
So it ends up with a giant duel between Vader and Obi-Wan, and looks like Vader has the upper hand. He ends up burying Obi-Wan, who gets himself free.
Do you think that looked like a video game and not like Star Wars?
It did look like a video game. And then he ends up, they fight, and then Obi-Wan manages to slash open Vader's helmet, and he sees Anakin inside, who says, I'm Anakin no more. This is what's left. This is all that's left.
I think that was my favorite part of this episode.
Yeah. And then so Vader goes back home and is told by the Emperor, stop hunting Kenobi because I'm questioning your loyalty bullshit. And
it's like, why?
Yeah, and Obi-Wan goes back home and realizes, the third sister had Luke, and then realized this is what she wanted to do because parallels the same thing of the Jedi slaughtering children sort of thing. And so she ends up handing off Luke to Owen, and
that character arc, we'll talk about that later. Continue.
Yeah, and then so now that and Leia's gone back home, and now she's accepting her role as whatever her role is, but now she's got the little holster on her hip, and she's a little bit more dangerous than she was before, sort of thing. And then finally the big reveal is after Kenobi makes his peace with Owen, he's riding off to the sunset to watch the boy from afar, and he gets to contact Qui-Gon's Force Ghost. And that's how the episode.
Why didn't he show up sooner? Okay, that's another huge thing.
So
let's start. Oh, are you going to keep going?
Oh,
let's talk about the Force Ghost.
No, this was just the episode recap, and this is where.
All right, let's start throwing topics out, Trevor.
This is the closest I've ever come to canceling my Disney Plus subscription.
I did cancel it, and when they asked why, I said because Obi-Wan sucked.
I mean, I came real close, but I realized, my daughters watch Disney Plus for various things all the time, and I there's a lot of questions I wasn't going to be able to answer. Plus, I got a really great deal when I signed up with Disney Plus because I'm also a Disney movie club member and vacation and all this stuff. Anyways, that's besides the point. This, again, I'm going to chalk it up to 100,000 missed opportunities. The direction this show went was just so illogical. We started off with Obi-Wan he's watching Luke from afar, but he is suffering from PTSD. He still can't get over the fact that he killed his best friend, and his best friend's wife basically died in his arms. And something he's known since childhood is gone. The Jedi Order is in tatters. It's gone. It's been defeated. His whole worldview has been rocked.
And that's a decent starting point for a film. I still think he should have been over the PTSD a little bit, but I can buy that as a starting point.
It's starting, and he kind of turned his back on the Force and as a way of kind of closing off his connection to the Force to protect, because Vader had Inquisitors going from planet to planet looking for running Jedi,
and it makes sense. So if you're in hiding, it's like, well, let's not show the powers because we're
exactly. You don't wear your Force pin on your shirt, sort of thing. You maybe tuck that away in the drawer. You don't wear your lightsaber openly. And so we see a Jedi happens to be on Tatooine on the run, and the Inquisitors catch him and do the thing Inquisitors do. That's fine. But this is where Obi-Wan learns to what extent these Inquisitors are going in, and finds out about, their leader, Darth Vader, who was leading the charge. From there, either he opens himself up to the Force and realizes he touches Anakin's spirit and realizes Anakin's alive. Don't have the third sister tell.
Yeah. Well, okay, here's one thing. When Obi-Wan's ghost shows up to Luke, it's in Hoth, right? So he's in the middle of a snowy planet, basically freezing to death, and the ghost shows up, and that's like, we've talked about this before. It's that little gnome on the road who gives you the advice on where to go next.
Something should have happened to Obi-Wan that either he gets, while he's keeping tabs on Luke, and Owen's like, you're not going to touch the boy. I mean, you didn't have a good chance. You don't have a good track record with students. Look at what happened with your last one.
Yeah. And,
it could that kind of hurts. Have him get ambushed where, to the point where he tries to suddenly reconnect to the Force, and it fails. His reconnection fails, and he gets his ass handed to him. So he's laying there bloodied, bruised, dying, and, either connects to Yoda or just blindly reaches out and connects to Anakin.
Yeah.
Now he realizes Anakin's alive. Vader realizes Obi-Wan's still here.
I don't want him to even know that Darth Vader is Anakin until that helmet's cut off.
I know. We keep going. So then he realizes that Obi-Wan's realized that by reconnecting to the Force, he's painted a giant target on the planet of Tatooine.
See, that's cool.
So now
okay. How do you explain that though for original Star Wars? Because he is a Force user, so I guess he just hasn't been really using the powers.
He's shut himself off from the Force so that anyone who's searching for him through the Force would not find him. They'd think Obi-Wan's dead. So, but when
but because he activates it, that's like a target beacon, and it's like,
it's like turning on the target beacon. And because he also was blindly reached out and touched Anakin, and go, oh my God, Anakin, and then you cut to Vader going, Obi-Wan, and then realize we have to go to this planet. We have to go in this direction. Obi-Wan is here. Obi-Wan's alive. I want him. Now you have Inquisitors rushing to the planet. So now Obi-Wan skips off planet.
Okay, I'm going to do a quick script doctoring here because I like where this is going, but I think that Obi-Wan should get off world first for whatever reason. Qui-Gon says, Obi-Wan, you must go to the whatever system.
Oh, I wouldn't even involve Qui-Gon yet, because still having that whole moment where he still hasn't, in 10 years, he still hasn't connected.
Okay, what gets him off the planet? Just activating the Force?
No, Inquisitors start showing up. Not like one Inquisitor who came through and left and killed that Jedi. We're talking
keep that.
We're talking like 6, 7 Inquisitors show up, and he realizes.
And that's one thing I like that they did in episode 1, because when they showed up on Tatooine, it's like, oh my God, really, Inquisitors on Tatooine. But the fact that there was another Jedi there and they killed him.
Yeah. So that Inquisitor, after he got the Jedi, they left.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, but when he touched the Force, suddenly there's someone's like, oh, the Inquisitor ship's back in orbit, and you've got like not just one ship coming down, you got like 7 or 8 ships coming down. These are all Inquisitors coming down, and Obi-Wan realizes I can't stay here because they're going to find Luke if I stay, because they'll track to me and they'll track to Luke, and then they'll all go to hell. So he
The
goes
one thing
off.
I would do there, I'm going to cut in real quick because this is fun to go back and forth. I would try and create a situation sort of like what they did with Leia, but try and do it better. But something else bigger that's happening that lures them off. So all the stuff we just talked about up to this point, but it's not that the Inquisitors are coming to Tatooine, but it's just like this problem has gotten too big. And again, it's sort of like Unforgiven, the Clint Eastwood movie, where it's like, you know what? Things have gotten so bad. It's like I'm putting my gun in my holster, putting my cowboy hat on.
Yeah.
I'm re-entering the fray.
Because he's reconnected with the Force, it's almost like a lit torch in a dark room.
Yeah.
He's got to take that torch somewhere else. He's got to get off Tatooine, get the attention off that planet.
But I also think he needs a target. Like he has to be going to do something. So he's leaving the planet to protect Luke. But he's also going out to kick some ass.
Because he's touched Anakin's spirit, he thinks Anakin might be still alive.
I still would keep that
until the end. But the thing is, he doesn't know who Anakin has become.
Right.
So where would the first place he would go?
That's kind of cool. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, he's touched Anakin's spirit, but he doesn't realize what Anakin's. So he doesn't.
Oh, that's actually really great.
He doesn't know that Anakin is Darth Vader. So the first place he's going to go.
That's brilliant.
He's going to go to Coruscant. He's going to go to the Jedi Temple. It's the last place he ever saw Anakin alive. It was on the videos of Anakin slaughtering younglings at the temple. That's where he's got to pick up the trail. Now we get to see what's happened to the Jedi Temple in the 10 years since the Empire took over.
Okay, I really like that because that connection with Anakin, which shows there's that tiny glimmer of good left. And then as he's trying to find Anakin, this crazy badass cyborg monster named Darth Vader starts trying to kill him.
Yeah, so when he shows up at the temple, as he's searching through archives and stuff like that, Vader arrives with a couple of Inquisitors and a whole slew of like the 501st. And as Anakin's fleeing, other Jedi show up who have been there the whole time in hiding, trying to save, Master Kenobi. Vader slaughters them without mercy. Obi-Wan runs. He's like, holy shit, I've got like this, crazy kill cyborg running after me. I don't know who this guy is or what the chip on his shoulder is, but this isn't good. Starts leading them on a merry chase. He's less going, blindly here, blindly. He's going to old places like old Jedi haunts, trying to find Anakin's trail, not realizing Anakin's on his tail the whole time. Finally gets to, they fight a couple times, and he realizes fighting Vader, he's fighting Anakin because of the fighting style. Because you could even cut flashbacks back to him and Hayden Christensen doing the training, and they're doing moves, and when he's fighting Vader, he's like, wait a second, you're fighting like Anakin. The only person who can fight like Anakin is Anakin, and that's when you do the swipe across the front of the mask and takes off part of it, and you get the line.
A fun thing about that too would be it's kind of like a reveal, right? So it's like it's the fighting style, and then he realizes like, wait, I know this fighting style. I know how to block it, how to
and you cut back and forth in the fight between then and now. So it's like a move now, same move set, and you can see the realization on Obi-Wan's face of this can't be. This can't be Anakin I'm fighting.
Actually, one thing I didn't like the jump cuts between time, because that's not a Star Wars trope. Like Star Wars never does the time jump cuts.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that did kind of bother me with that. I didn't like flashbacks because like Quentin Tarantino's does that. Like that's
these flashbacks thing. I felt didn't work because they didn't advance the story as much as, Anakin doesn't like to lose. He'll victory at any cost. But we weren't in a situation where that message was very important yet. It was like you're giving us the back information too soon.
Like what the Star Wars trope for something like that would be somebody telling you that.
Yeah.
Right. It would be want a little bit, Obi-Wan.
Yeah. I want a little bit more show than tell, because if you can get the actors, why not? So
I was just like if Obi-Wan was telling somebody Anakin
Yeah.
fights this style. Anakin always was aggressive. Like, I don't
Yeah.
need the flashback. Like, I know you want to get the actor on screen. I
Yeah.
know you want him with his helmet off.
But what I would
just
also
like
do
Boba
is
Fett.
yeah, what I do is, so if episode 1, Obi-Wan's basically force negative, like has no power until the very end of the episode. As the episodes ramp up, by the end of 5, Obi-Wan's back into fighting form.
Yes.
Where he was at the height of the Clone Wars.
I would even say episode 3 or 4. I want to see prime Obi-Wan, because that scene at the end where he's saying bye to Leia, it's like,
Yeah,
this is the character I wanted for 6 episodes.
And I would want him as after he kind of defeats Vader, like cuts the helmet open, leaves his chest all like mangled, maybe a squad of Inquisitors show up. We'll handle this, Lord Vader. We've got, and just watch Obi-Wan do his thing at his full peak and just show how childlike the Inquisitors really are.
Yeah. How cool would it be if he chopped Vader's helmet around like episode 3 or 4?
Yeah, you could even do that like episode
because
4,
at that point, then it's like, oh, this is my best friend that's trying to kill me.
Yeah,
and all his goons that I'm chopping up, all these Inquisitors. It's like, oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, so I would actually have that helmet chop do right at the end of 4, the fight against the Inquisitors in 5, and while he's escaping and trying to figure out where he's going to next, that's when Vader's getting a new helmet, new stuff like that. 6 is Obi-Wan being pushed into basically aerial combat, starfighter combat, where he's not.
I was waiting for that.
Where Vader is the master. So you fight in space, you fight down onto the planet, and this is where Obi-Wan fakes his death.
Yeah, so that would be great, because that pissed me off, that when Vader's like, get my ship ready, and it's that like Imperial, what's it called?
It's the
Imperial shuttle.
Yeah, the Imperial shuttle, and
it's like, come on, this is before episode 1. Give him his damn TIE fighter, dude.
Yeah, get him the TIE. So have them do the big dog fight, and you can even have Obi-Wan like, I never like flying these things, all the way down to the planet, fakes his death. Vader, at that point, Anakin or Obi-Wan closes himself off from the Force again to make Vader believe he's dead.
Okay, and now I've always said Vader at this point should be a mad dog off the leash. It's like when a dog is chasing a rabbit and the tail goes up, it's like the little white tail that's floating around. Yeah. And they hide and the tail goes down. The dog's like, where did he go? I don't know where he is anymore.
Do it as, so, Obi-Wan's crashed his ship. That's when Qui-Gon shows up and says like,
oh, that'd be good.
Obi-Wan, you have to close off your connection to the Force. He's not going to stop until you're dead.
Yeah, or even it's like, this isn't the fight. Like, this isn't how we're going to win.
This isn't your fight.
Yeah.
So he closes himself off. Vader thinks he's dead. Vader's enraged that he didn't get the lightsaber duel that he wanted. Now he's off the leash. Now the Imperials are like, Vader, you have to. And this is where the Emperor steps in and says, Vader, get control of yourself. Are you loyal to me, or are you just some mad animals lashing out? And then
you could get some crazy stuff, like how Vader force chokes everybody.
Yeah, you could have
the Emperor do something like that to him.
Yeah, like
where it's like, no, I'm the Sith Master. You're just.
I'd even have like, because Vader's in his TIE fighter still. The TIE fighter screeches to a halt and just vibrates, and it starts to crush in around Vader. And he's like, Vader, who's the master here, Vader? And so so Vader takes. So he doesn't for the next 6 years be wondering, well, where is Obi-Wan? In his mind, he thinks he's dead, so he's not chasing him.
Yeah, and at this point, Vader is still the student.
Yeah, he's still the student. The Emperor is still the master. Obi-Wan has finally made his connection to Qui-Gon. He heads back to Tatooine, gets his little hut, and sets up for the next 6 years of waiting until the events in A New Hope start. That would have been a nice 6-episode arc. Would have made me super happy.
But it didn't.
It didn't. It really did. We didn't see a man who overcame his PTSD or came to terms of acceptance with it.
In fact, he screwed up every single thing he was supposed to do.
And now it's going to be like, General Kenobi, you fought with my father. You remember when I was 10 and you rescued me from those kidnappers, and I got this really cool holster that I could put my droid into? I don't remember her saying that dialogue. but she's going to have to now. They're going to have to re-edit A New Hope to add that dialogue in.
Well, they also have to add that C-3PO is Luke Skywalker's brother. So
yeah. So yeah, there's just little things like that could have made this series so much better.
Okay, I have to add one more thing. I see the timer clock is dropping down on this point, but
yeah.
Okay, one huge problem I had with the fight scene between Obi-Wan and Vader in this last episode, which is my favorite part of the episode, but there was no stakes in the fight.
Yeah.
So if you look at all the great fights, okay, let's just start with Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back, my absolute favorite. Vader versus Luke on Bespin. That's absolutely epic, but there's very clear stakes. So Vader is trying to seduce Luke to the dark side and bring him to the Emperor. And Luke's trying to save his friends. And he's going to take out this Vader guy to do it. Right? It's like, I'm a Jedi now, so screw you. I'm taking you down. Right? So those are very clear stakes. Each character has a very specific goal. It's in a very interesting location. So Bespin, like the whole carbonite chamber. So it's a fun environment. And it's epic because of the stakes and the story and the characters' motivations. Like even Return of the Jedi, where Luke basically like, okay, I'm prisoner. I'm gonna go back there and
he's
save
trying
you.
to redeem his dad, and dad's trying to finish the conversion of his son.
Right. And again, interesting location. Like there's stuff that there is around to fight them with. If you look at this episode with Obi-Wan, it's like they just show up to this planet for no real reason. It's like, are you trying to kill me or whatever his line was? It's like, wait a second, you came to me. Like, what?
Yeah.
The whole thing's confusing. It's a barren planet, no stakes, no real obstacles, just two guys showing up on a planet, lightsabers and the rocks.
Yeah.
Even though this was my favorite part of the episode, but it was flawed.
So for me, like their big battle in 4 would be, Vader has cornered Obi-Wan. He's like, Vader's there to kill Obi-Wan, but just as they're about to fight, gives the simple line of, what are you hiding, Obi-Wan? Now Obi-Wan realizes that he's not only got to do this fight physically, he's got to do the fight mentally so that Vader doesn't learn of Luke and Leia.
Right. And at this point, I would still say Obi-Wan doesn't know that's Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, but he's
because it's confusing. Like, what the hell is this crazy cyborg dude?
What do you mean? What am I hiding? And then realize, when he cuts him open and realizes that's Anakin, I really got to doubly hide my mind because
it's
if he knows who Luke is or Leia is, again, things go to hell.
Game over, man. Game over.
That's when he goes for the kill to take Vader out. That's when the Inquisitors show up, and you could have him killing some Inquisitors, but the rest of them are hustling Vader off to go get him healed.
That would even be cool. Okay, the whole idea of the Mad Dog thing. So Vader's like the alpha male of the wolf pack, and then the Inquisitors are like the betas coming in.
They're basically like his teeth.
Yeah.
He points, they go and chew. So so when he's fighting Vader, when he realizes that it's Anakin, and Anakin is trying to get into his head to find out what Obi-Wan's been doing the last 10 years. What has he been hiding the last 10 years? Obi-Wan realizes, I have to kill him. I can't let him get this information. I have to kill him. The Inquisitors show up. They basically break up the fight long enough for them to hustle Vader off. He kills the rest of the Inquisitors that are there, takes off, but realizes the fight's not done. He's either got to kill Vader or let Vader think that he's been killed. And that's what he goes with. It's better for him to hide. Like, he doesn't know if he can take Anakin down. So it's better for him to fake his own death.
How far are you in on Naruto? Have you seen the Tale of Jiraiya the Gallant?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm still getting there.
Okay, so sort of spoilers, but one thing that happens there is he realizes the identity of pain. So for me, this is one of my favorite fights of the whole Naruto series. And again, because it has stakes. So Jiraiya is going basically undercover into enemy territory to figure out, like, who the hell is this guy who's controlling the Otsutsuki? Mm-hmm. And in the middle of this combat, he starts realizing, wait a second, I fought or encountered every one of these people before, but they're basically like zombie monsters now, being controlled by someone else. And then he looks at the guy leading them. It's like, wait a second, I know who this guy is.
Yeah.
It's like, I finally figured it out. And as soon as that happens, the guy jumps up, crushes his vocal cords, and all of them come down and stab him to death. And he can't communicate. Like,
Yeah.
I finally figured this out. So he inscribes a message on a toad and he sends it back to the leaf and he dies.
Yeah.
Right. That's the stakes. But that would be the moment here with Obi-Wan where it's like, wait a second, I know who Vader is.
Yeah, I know.
I finally figured it out,
and I've got the rest of the information that he's going to want if he realizes the information. So I even have in episode 5 when he's running, and leading up to the big space battle with Vader, he's frantically trying to sever his connection to the Force.
I so wanted a space battle
so that Vader has no way of getting into his head.
Yeah,
and you could even he starts to hear a little bit of like Qui-Gon's advice here and there, and he's like, I don't understand what's going on.
Like Luke going to the Death Star.
Yeah.
Let go.
And then eventually when he has the big space battle with Vader, and then the battle on the planet, and then the faking the death, and Qui-Gon going, now it's time you have to shut your connection off to the Force. Now's not the time. This isn't your fight. You're not meant to fight Vader.
Let go, Obi-Wan.
Exactly. And that's when he does. That's what confuses Vader into thinking he's killed Obi-Wan, which enrages him even more. That's when the Emperor steps in to basically bring Vader to heel. Then Obi-Wan simply goes back to Tatooine. He's talked to Qui-Gon, but he realizes by closing himself to the Force, he can't talk to Qui-Gon. But if he opens himself, Vader may find him and pull the information of Luke out of his head. So that's he finally reconnected to the Force and was kind of happy with it, sort of thing. But then he has to give it up again. But on his
going undercover.
Yeah, he has to give it up on his terms, because he knows that there's for Luke's safety, this is the sacrifice he has to make.
I like it.
And if they had, so as I was saying, if the series had followed that sort of route, I would have been A, very happy with the series, and B, very happy with the way that it connected episode 3 to episode 4 through that arc of Obi-Wan and Anakin. I would have been dancing in the streets happy, but that's not what we got.
What did we get?
Something that they're even hinting they might do a second season of. I don't know how.
Okay, let's talk about Reva, third sister.
All right. I like the actress. I think she played it well. You
liked her as a bad guy?
I liked her as a bad guy because there was a hunger trying to prove yourself, trying to be you're just as bad as all the other Inquisitors, when at heart she wasn't. It's like the whole trying to be even more zealous than the zealous, just to prove that you're as good as them, but you go overboard, like you go too far.
That's the thing I actually didn't like, but
I like that because like if you harken back to like World War II, there was like French forces that defected and fought for the Nazis, and they were more gung-ho for the Nazi cause than the Nazis were. They just took it too far, sort of thing. Same thing. She started she was a youngling. She becomes an Inquisitor, and she takes it too far. That's why all the other Inquisitors were kind of like pissed at her, because they're like, it's like, okay, yeah, you got an A on the test, but you don't need to shine the apple and put it on the teacher's desk too. Just do the job. Don't become the job. And I like that the actress, I think she pulled that off well. And then when you have that emotional breakdown, she portrayed it well. So I
will give her that. The emotional breakdown is the only acting that I enjoyed from her the entire series. Yes. I wish, for me, in my opinion, the first 5 episodes and half of episode 6, if the acting of her being the Inquisitor was better, then I could buy this. But because I had so much dislike from her because of that overacting and just not quite being character cast correctly,
I think some of that is the writing.
Well, a lot of that is the writing. I'll blame the writing and directing for just about all of it.
Watching this, it's the writing. They started off with a really good start, and then it just went downhill. Episode after episode was just more writing in flames.
Yeah, like how many times can you get stabbed in the gut by a lightsaber and survive?
A lot, it seems. But yeah, it was just I just felt like every episode was like, yeah, they really did something good in the previous episode. We can't match that, so we're not going to try. It was like, oh god, just diminishing returns with every episode. So by 6, they weren't even like scraping the bottom of the barrel. They weren't even. They were just getting the mud off the ground around the barrel at that point.
As soon as they showed sleeping Luke at the end of episode 5, I was like, oh God, no. We were really going to go there. We're going to do this.
Yep.
Like,
Cape Fear.
Did Obi-Wan fail this badly?
Yeah, he did. It turns out he did. So yeah, that's why I was just like, I watched episode 6. I liked the lightsaber fight. It didn't make a whole lot of sense as to why there, and yeah, as you were saying, not enough stakes. And then the whole B story with the third sister and Luke, and it was just like, oh, this is what we get. This is the best they came out with. What was Dave Filoni doing? Was he busy? Is he busy on Mandalorian season 3? Like, what's going on? So yeah, it just felt not really rushed, but not thought out.
No, definitely not. And again, which we've said multiple times, it didn't connect with the intention of what Star Wars is supposed to be at all. Like, this is just a couple writers who probably didn't even watch the movies coming up with some random story.
I'd say they watched the movies, but I don't think they realized that their job was to connect episode 3 to episode 4. I think they figured, it'll take care of itself. But it's fun to throw all those little Easter eggs in to make your audience, like, ooh, look at that, that's great. But Easter eggs aside, the story has to be strong enough to take 2 movies and say, this is what's bridging the gap between these two.
Right.
This is bridging 16 years. This is what's going on during that time. And it was just like, they didn't do it. We have Star Wars Rogue One that kind of gaps the year before.
Yep.
But there's a whole lot more time there. And I really don't want to see season 2 of Obi-Wan. What's it going to be? Like, it's going to be terrible. That's why go on with the Lando Calrissian series with Billy D. Williams and Donald Glover. I mean,
they won't do that.
No, they won't.
They don't listen to our podcast.
We're
giving you free ideas, man.
Yeah, that could, they could use some of that because I would like to see more of stuff that happened between episode 3 and episode 4, but from different characters' points of view. So we just got Obi-Wan's. Let's do Lando's. Let's do, all that sort of stuff leading up to. I don't really look at Solo as kind of being in there because
I've never looked at the Solo movie.
That was a terrible.
I saw a weird shower scene with Chewbacca, and that was enough for me.
Yeah. It's just, they got some good actors. Unfortunately, it came out too close to Last Jedi, and a lot of people were just so unhappy with that Solo basically was just going to get shit on no matter what it did. They could have hired Harrison Ford and DH'd him for the whole goddamn movie, and it still would have been shat on. Because,
but from what I've seen of the story, it deserved to be shat on,
it
of its own merit.
It was not a good movie. It was not even a bad movie. It didn't even aspire to get up to a bad movie rating.
It's hilarious that Kathleen Kennedy is using that as the reason why they're not going to cast, new versions of the characters. They're just going to do this weird CG face map morphing deep fake thing, because obviously that's the reason why the film failed.
Oh yeah, it's not the meddling of the producers. It's never them. It's the children that are wrong.
Damn you, children. This is why Anakin killed all of the younglings.
Yeah, so I can't wait for her contract to finally be over and her out.
I thought that was going to happen years ago, but no.
Well, it's supposed to, but she keeps hanging around. She keeps signing extensions, and
it's like a Disney barnacle.
Yeah, even though they've said, oh well, Filoni and Favreau are now in control of Star Wars, you can feel her fingers and everything.
Yeah,
and so
fingers in all the orifices.
Yeah, it's just oh God, why do they have to keep writing such garbage?
Because we're not on the writing team, Trevor. I need to fix that.
I'll happily.
I think we ruined our chances.
Oh yeah. Oh. We didn't just step on that line. We pissed on it, took a crap on it. I think I threw up on it a couple times. Yeah, that's not happening. They're gonna be like, no. So coming up, next week we have Obi-Wan's done. So we have Miss Marvel, we've got The Boys, we've got Orville, we've got New Horizons, Don't we have a movie coming up soon? Oh, Thor: Love and Thunder is coming up in a week or so, week and a half, 2
Is
weeks.
that right? That soon? I
Yeah,
don't know if I'm going to see that one.
I
Honestly,
definitely, I definitely
I'm
am.
waiting for reviews.
I'm going to see it just because of Taika. Because
Yeah,
I
you have
also know
faith.
I do have faith because I also know July 12th is the next season of What We Do in the Shadows, which I will be watching happily. Because yeah, that was great.
I
And
haven't watched that.
whenever the next season of Our Flag Means Death, that's another great one. Yeah, it's everything he makes. I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to watch this too now, aren't I? He doesn't make many bad decisions directing wise. Like it's all
I might wait until I get a review from you
okay.
and then decide if I'm going to drop a couple $100 to go to the theater to see it.
Well, I mean, like this week, Doctor Strange showed up on Doctor Strange 2 showed up on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was only out like a month and a half ago. So they're not even waiting. Like I think it was 45 days.
Yeah, that was shockingly fast.
So yeah, if you don't want to see it July, you'll probably be able to catch it on Netflix by or Disney Plus by end of August. So yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna be one of those movies that you do need to see on a big screen. Like you really need to see it on a big screen.
If it's good.
It looks like it covers a couple of different pantheons.
Yeah.
It looks like we go to the Greek mythology as well.
Yeah.
Because what's her face? Valkyrie is fighting with Zeus's thunderbolt.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's gonna be fun.
Wasn't Russell Crowe Zeus?
Is it? I don't think it is Russell Crowe.
Who is it?
I don't know. This is something you gotta look up now.
All right, you keep talking while I look this up.
All right, you look that up. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to this movie. What else is coming out? I know there's a couple more things coming down the pike, but there's so much going on this summer else like outside of the entertainment sphere that it's going to keep me busy. But I'm going to use this summer for a lot of catch up on stuff that I just haven't had time to like get caught up with the Orville. I really want to get caught up with I kind of want to see all the seasons of Alone. I'm hooked. I really am.
It's a great show. Yeah. Confirmed Russell Crowe as Zeus.
Okay. So yeah, I do have the hook right here in the corner of my mouth for Alone. So it'll keep tugging me along. So it is Russell Crowe's Zeus. Yeah. It didn't in the trailer. It doesn't
flick.
It didn't look like him. Like it didn't seem like him. All right. I guess it maybe just wasn't memorable enough for me to go like, oh, look, that is. So yeah, I'm excited to I'll definitely give a review of Love and Thunder when it comes out in I think it's 2 weeks. I think we're 2 weeks away, which is kind of awesome.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that one because it could go both ways. Everybody loves Ragnarok.
Yeah. It was funny. Hemsworth only agreed to do Ragnarok because he was ready to quit, like completely quit everything after Dark World. Because he was like the character didn't advance at all. It was a miserable production to be on, and it just came out. I mean, that it is probably one of the worst of all the films, and he was ready to just say, you know what, I'm done with the MCU.
Third worst, maybe.
Yeah, but he was ready to say, I'm done with the MCU. I'll go on to other things. And it was Taika Waititi that said, I got this idea. This is what I want to do with the character. We're going to put some humor into it. And he was like, well, let's see where it goes. And I was reading it was something like by the third day of shooting, Hemsworth was like, I'm carrying this through to the end. As many films you want to do, let's do it. This is the most fun he's had on set before he ever did a single MCU film. So yeah. So I look at it as he's at the helm of this next one as well. So it's going to, even if it's mediocre, his mediocre is still better than some people's great. So
I hope so. I want it to be good and I want to enjoy it.
What we do
There's enough I've seen where I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, What We Do in the Shadows.
I haven't seen that.
You've never seen the movie?
No. Okay. Tell me about that.
So,
I mean, I know basically what it is, but
it's a documentary style where it's the documentaries following this group of vampires who are living in the modern age, who are definitely not from the modern age. So, and they're having a whole, they don't understand how some technology works and stuff like that, but they're in conflict with the local group of werewolves because vampires and werewolves don't get don't get together. So this one guy invites his friend who's an IT specialist, and they're like trying to get them set up with computers and stuff. He ends up getting attacked by a werewolf, and it's just almost like the fish out of water motif, but it's vampires and werewolves, where the vampires are like, well, back in 18th century England, we would do it this way. It's like, no, you can't do that. So when they did the TV show on FX of What We Do in the Shadows, so the original movie had, there's Taika Waititi, Jermaine Clement, and the whole New Zealand crew doing it. It was hilarious. So now they have like the guy who's kind of like the Dracula, like he's like the Vlad the Impaler. They have Nadia, who's the Eastern European. She was the vampiress who got the guy who's from England, who vows never to go back. Now they're living in Staten Island, and they're part of under the purview of the Manhattan Vampire Council, but they don't like them there because they're being told they're not trying enough, they're not doing enough, and they're just trying to live their day-to-day lives. And they have a fourth member there who's an energy vampire. He can go out in the day, doesn't drink blood, but he sucks people's emotional energy. So he works in like a call center. And he just, at one point, he gets made the boss, and he ends up draining everyone's power, and his eyes are glowing, and he's like ultra powerful. And he's like, this isn't fun for me because it's too easy. And then they have their human familiar, Guillermo, who is trying to get to become a vampire. He's hoping if he serves them long enough, he'll be made into a vampire. He's been serving them for like well over a decade. And they keep promising, someday, Guillermo, someday you'll. And the one guy doesn't even know his name. He's been there 10 years, and he's like, what's your name again? I don't care.
Yeah.
So yeah, they treat him like absolute garbage. At one point, turns out he's from a Van Helsing bloodline, so he's extremely skilled at killing vampires without trying. So they lock him in a cage in the basement while they figure out what they do with him, and they're feeding him they give him packages of raw chicken and yoo-hoo. They figure because that's what humans eat, and he just when they leave, he just takes off the back of the cage and goes out to like the local hamburger place and has a hamburger and fries, and then comes back and puts the cage back in and lays back down on the cot because he wants to prove to them that he's still a faithful servant. He doesn't want to kill them, even though he's killed countless vampires trying to kill them because the local vampire council wants them dead, and then they end up taking over the council. And yeah, it's hilarious. It's got a lot of insight, and Taika is one of the executive producers. And they even had the council where they had one of the council members was Wesley Snipes as Blade.
That's great.
So it was just like, what?
How did you do that?
Yeah, so it's a great show. It really is. It got picked up. So they just finished their third season last year, and everyone's like, oh, hopefully they'll get picked up for a fourth season. They got picked up for 4 and 5. FX.
What kind of rating is it? Is it family or is it?
Yeah, family could watch it.
Yeah.
It's not. It's nothing. They tone down anything like would be like ultra violent, or it's as well toned down because you're still following the documentary crew, following these people. And occasionally, when one of the vampires gets so hungry, they're like the one guy will turn to the documentary crew and he's like, run now. I can hold them back, but you have to run now. Stuff
That's
like
great.
that. So it's like basically like filming lions, but every once in a while the lions will look at you and realize, wait a minute, he is edible. So yeah, it's a fun show. It's 3 seasons. I highly recommend it. But that's one of the things that got me hooked on Taika Waititi as a filmmaker. And then when he started producing I've pretty much seen every film he's done, and even as controversial as they get, like Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, we watched that with the family. Yeah,
they're still fun to watch.
It was great. It was. There's some dark moments, but
they are. But it's still.
It was good. It was well
very
done.
Fun to watch those films. So that's why I have a lot of hope for Love and Thunder. I can't see him suddenly like just coming up with a complete blank check on this one and just shitting the bed.
Yeah,
so.
I worry about Marvel because sometimes they get their fingers into it. Yeah, it's
well,
like typical Disney.
I think in some ways, the MCU is kind of off limits for some of their stuff. Like with the whole thing with Edgar Wright and Ant-Man, I think that's when they finally realized that, all right, when we hire a director to do this, we've got to let them do what they're going to do.
I've noticed the shift in this last
Because
phase.
like James Gunn, when he did Guardians of the Galaxy, he was like, I'll take a complete obscure, nobody knows team, and I'll make a successful movie out. And you could see Marvel was kind of like, like Disney's like, I don't know if we can do this. He pulled it off. So Guardians of the Galaxy 2, he had carte blanche.
Yep.
So I think with Taika doing Love and Thunder, or sorry, doing Ragnarok, they've realized, all right, just let him do what he's going to do. It's going to be a successful movie. We're going to make our billion. We'll be happy. So I've kind of noticed, like, unfortunately, that's how something like the Eternals gets made. Then,
well, that wasn't even under Marvel directly. Was that the Marvel TV division, which was headed up by someone else?
I look at it as it's just.
Oh wait, no. Which one are you saying? Eternals.
The Eternals.
Yeah, Eternals. No, I'm thinking of Inhumans.
Yeah,
sorry.
In Humans, that was just a mistake.
Wrong train wreck.
Yeah, but when they did the Eternals, that again, that's a case of they're like, well, we hands off. The director should be able to pull off something good, and they couldn't. That was just.
Have you watched that?
The Eternals. I've seen most of it at normal speed. A lot of it fast forward because it's a mind-numbingly terrible movie. I
haven't seen anything of it yet except the trailer.
It's just so fucking terrible. It is honestly, in my estimation, it is the worst of all the Marvel movies.
Worse than Iron Man 3?
Worse than Iron Man 3,
worse than Black Widow?
Worse than Black Widow, worse than Thor 2. The Eternals is the worst of all the Marvel films so far.
Wow.
Like it is honestly the film you could simply pluck out of the MCU and nothing changes. If anything, things get better. Yeah, that's how bad that film is. Like all the other films like Thor 2, Iron Man 3, even Black Widow, you take them away, you take away something from the rest of the MCU in some small way or another. You take away the Eternals and nothing changes. Nothing changes. It's honestly, they could have slapped, like, instead of Marvel Studios, the Eternals, they could have been like Dark Universe, the Eternals, or DC, the Eternal, and it would have been about the same effect. Like it did not need to be part of the Marvel Universe at all.
Universal Monsters.
Exactly. We unwrapped the mummy. We scrubbed Frankenstein clean. We took away Drax's cloak. It's the Eternals. That's pretty much what they could have done. Like it was just a train wreck of a goddamn. I mean, it had some great looking visuals, like the Celestial when it's coming up out of the earth and they end up turning it into marble, and you can see like its head partially poking up through the clouds and part of its hand. And you realize, man, Damage Control's really going to have a task on its hands getting that cleaned up.
We've said they needed a TV series, right?
Yeah. So, but yeah, so it's that movie's terrible. I can't stress how much I hate the Eternals. Like it's just, oh, what a waste. A waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of opportunity. So yeah. I mean, if you want to show, LGBTQ, positive characters, do so. But don't center the film around, ooh, here's the big reveal. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
They're people,
Right. Just tell a good story.
Yeah, tell me.
That's all you have to do.
And if you want to say, oh, this character's gay, okay. Well, this character's not gay, okay. But did you tell a good story in the meantime? That's what matters to me, is the story. Story first.
Yeah, like back in Cerebus, the story arc Melmoth, which was with the character who's based on Oscar Wilde, which is a gay author, and it's like it's not the center of attention. It's just like it's a matter of fact. This is what it is, and here's a cool story.
So, like, I took my girls to see the movie Lightyear, and there's a sequence in there where his best friend, the door opens up, and there's his best friend's son and her partner. It's like two moms, whoop-de-doo, and they kiss. Whoop-de-doo. Well, now you've got like places here in the US that they're trying to figure a way to fast forward that section, or simply cut that section out of the film and kind of slap the two, and so that section doesn't happen.
No, in that case, does it add anything to the story? or is it just like representation?
It does, because it shows that whereas so the whole idea is every time Buzz takes a flight out testing the experimental fuel, years go by. So for him is minutes, like 4 minutes, is like sometimes a decade has gone by. So his best friend, who he was a space ranger with, she's getting progressively older and higher in rank, and her hair's getting gray. And at first you see her, her daughter, or sorry, her little son. And she said, well, I met someone. And he's like, oh, and she says the line, yeah, she works over, and she's a scientist. She works over in that division. He's like, oh, okay, well, at least you found someone. He has no problem with it. Then you see their son, and then you see their son a little older. Then you see their son graduating from high school. Then you see her son joining the military. And then the next time when he does the big jump, he meets up with, turns out it's her granddaughter, and she's left a message and saying, turns out old age got to me, and here's my granddaughter, sort of thing, who now wants to be a space ranger. And that's where the story kind of takes place. And it's not like, oh, look, we can make this character gay. It's just it's just a person's life. Like it's the choices they make, the results.
Yeah, problem I have with a lot of the Hollywood writing is it's so much virtue signaling rather than actual writing. It's like Netflix is terrible for this, where they just have to cram stuff in because they have that whole department of diversity or whatever they call it, where it's like they have to just cram things into a story. Like I saw some meme, I forget what character it was, but it would be like, Martin Luther King played by an Asian woman because we need diversity. It's like, wait, no, whoa, hold on, what? It's there's something. One reason I like Black Panther so much, the movie, is that was one that was handled so well the whole way through, with a superhero from Africa, Wakanda, and a whole nation, and you have the token white guys literally in there, and it just felt so honest, and it wasn't virtue signaling in any way. It was like honoring the culture, honoring tradition, everything, and it wasn't trying to virtue signal. It's like, no, this is what it would be like. This is the story that we're telling in this universe.
Things that, like, so in Doctor Strange, they made the Ancient One a white Celtic woman. Whereas the Ancient One in the comics was this incredibly old Chinese guy. But they said the reason why they went with Tilda Swinton instead is because they didn't want to lose the China market. And I think when you start making compromises like that, especially from established material, it's a big slap to the people who wrote that. I mean, back then it wasn't as culturally insensitive. It's like, you still have to honor the roots of where this stuff's coming from. It's like when I see stuff like, when they're based on a true story, but when they say inspired by. So it's like, well, there was this guy who, used his car to stop a runaway garbage truck when the driver had a heart attack and saved a bunch of people. Well, I wrote a movie about a gorilla that, runs rampant through the city and eats a lot of bananas and ends up, dying. Because I was inspired by the one where it's like, you weren't two entirely different things, but that's what's happening a lot. They're like, well, we got this great, material, but we're inspired to go write something entirely like World War Z. We want to do a movie about zombies, but we got Brad Pitt, so we're inspired to do a movie of Brad Pitt versus the zombies. We're going to keep the title the same because we paid all that money for it, but the two have no common ground. That's what personally just irks the hell out of me. Like, if you're going to use something with such a rich background, then use it. Don't say, well, I skimmed it and came up with something entirely different anyway.
Yep, agree. And make sure you get someone helming the project that actually understands it and loves it.
Yeah. So if you want to tell a story about a gay superhero, don't get some old rich white dude who has no concept of the culture and the diversity and the impact, and just, well, he's a really good director, he won an Oscar. what was the movie he won the Oscar for then? Like, is it somehow related or not? Like, hire the people who can do the best job, not hiring the people who've had a previous success and you're banking on that.
Right. Like, you have to understand the story, you have to understand the content, and it should be a legit expression of some sort and not just a virtue signaling, spewing propaganda. Because that's one thing about creativity. And I've learned this a lot by, even watching Jordan Peterson lectures and all that kind of stuff, where it's, if you're just like reading the teleprompter and spewing propaganda, that doesn't resonate. But if you're exploring an idea and you're talking from your soul and you're trying to express yourself and you're trying to express your truth, right? Like, even if you don't quite understand what that is, that resonates with people, like it connects with people in some way. So, and storytelling is that's an exploration of an idea to try and communicate a message. And if that message is honest and true, it'll like touch people's hearts and they'll learn something from it.
So there's American filmmaker Jordan Peele. He was on Key and Peele. He's done a series of movies that, in my opinion, are just groundbreaking and exciting. I mean, regardless of the subject matter, he's telling stories from a Black perspective. And he even said, like, he will not cast a white person in the lead role because those stories have been told. He wants to tell the stories from the perspective of a Black person. And I admire his honesty to do that. And he's doing it so goddamn well.
That's something that would be so easy to call it as being racist.
Yeah, but
it's like, no, I'm telling a story. This is the story I want to tell.
And when he writes these movies, he writes them in a way that you wouldn't be able to tell it as if you swapped out the lead with a white lead, it would not have the same connotations. It would not have the same effect, and it would be a lesser film. So, like his movie, the Black Klansman, which is a fantastic movie, or Us, which was probably one of my favorite horror movies in recent time. I haven't seen the new Candyman, but I am so excited for the movie coming up, Nope. And it's about a UFO above a farm, and they're trying to get people to realize there's a UFO there and bad things are happening, and people are like, no, it's all good. It's all, but
that's
like,
amazing.
And it's, you watch, like, after this, watch the trailer for Nope. And honestly, I watched, like, we were in the theater, I was watching with my wife, it was just before Jurassic Dominion, and I'm watching the trailer for Nope, and I'm like, I'd rather be sitting through that film right now, because this looks awesome. And he, there is a social message he puts in his films, but he doesn't batter you with it.
That's important.
And he doesn't do it all at once. The message takes the length of the movie. And sometimes you think, oh, well, this is the message, and then it changes. But by the end of the movie, it's very clear what the message was. And you're a better person for learning it. And it's just really impressive filmmaking. I honestly, I hope, we see another 20 years of movies out of this guy.
Because so not like Obi-Wan.
Definitely not like Obi-Wan. To me, filmmakers like that are what's keeping the industry alive. But if we keep, rehashing and getting the same group of tired directors making the same tired thing, and then someone crams in some social forum into it and spoiling the movie because just like, well, that doesn't make sense. That's what's making these movies worse. So we need more of these, filmmakers off to the side who are doing honest, good work. Because otherwise, then why the hell go to the theater?
Amen to that.
So I'm going to step down off my soapbox now. I think we're going to wrap it up here. So
yeah, I see the countdown clock.
I do too. So you've been listening to Geeking Off the Page. You're probably very, very tired of hearing my voice. So I'm going to hand it over.
Oh, you have a beautiful voice, Trevor.
Oh, God.
You can always listen to that voice.
No, I can't even listen to this voice. So I'm going to hand it over to Mike to send us off.
All right. Thanks for listening. We don't know if Troy or Gavin are going to add anything to this, but definitely me and Trevor will be back next week to talk about all the geeking news.
Catch you later.
Good night, folks.
This has been Geeking Off the Page, a Planet Geek production. Please be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can find us at our social medias through Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Search for Planet Geek Productions. On Instagram and Twitter, Planet Geek Pod. Or you can send us an email at planetgeekpod@gmail.com. So until next bad time, same Spider Channel, may the Force be with you, and thanks for tuning in.
It's tomorrow. We take the girls to camp, so we got to get the trunks packed and they have the big steamer trunks, like the big end of the bed sort of trunks. So we got one for each of the girls. Get those packed and toodle them off. It's like an hour and a half drive.
The last time we did a family camp, we went down to Boston, went to my cousin's wedding, and decided, okay, we're going to go out to the ocean and camp out there for a while. This was after we were like 6 episodes into Stranger Things season 1.
Okay.
So we were all hyped for the season, but everybody's like basically having nightmares of demon demigorgons and stuff like that. And now we're out in the woods in the darkness. It was epic, but because everybody loved the show so much back then, and out there in the darkness, but we wanted to get home to see how it ended. It was an epic adventure.
It's funny. So my wife and I, for season 1, we had caught I think about half the episodes, and then we went to Myrtle Beach on vacation, and we're like, oh yeah, we could totally catch it while we're down there, in the evenings when it's slow and the kids are in bed. And the place we were staying, no internet connection, or so poor that our Chromecast couldn't keep a stable enough connection. So it would start to load the starting screen, and it would glitch out, and the sound would stutter. We're like, is this what we're doomed to? So took my phone, hotspotted it, and connected the Chromecast to it. We watched one episode, and the next night we started watching the next, and it said I had reached my data limit. And I was like, son of a bitch. So we're like, all right, we'll just watch the rest when we get back. We get back, we do 2 things. 1, we watch the rest of Stranger Things. 2, I went to AT&T and got the unlimited data plan. Just because I was like, damn it. What if, because the episodes streaming are actually pretty big for me to hit my data limit. And I was like, this just sucks. We only got an episode and a half in before I hit the data. And it even rolled over when we first arrived. It had just rolled over. And I'm like, oh, bastards. Trying to keep Stranger Things from us. So yeah. And I think we had just hit the episode where we kind of saw the Demogorgon for the first time, and it opened its yeah, and then the episode ends, and Mary turns to me, we gotta watch the next episode, and that's when you've reached your data limit, and I don't want to pay what they're going to be charging per gig after, because that's going to get insane. Considering we just watch the show for free when we get home. Why are we going to pay that much? We can wait a couple days.
Yeah.
But every day we're like, wonder what happened in Stranger Things that next episode. Wonder what happened. Yeah. Now when we go there, it's no issue because they have really good internet for the whole complex. So yeah, we could just put it in the car if we had.
You can watch all the shows.
Yeah. So now it's not an issue, but back then it was a huge issue. It was like
vacation.
Yes. Where you try to get people unplugged, but it doesn't work because there's so much going on, so much you got to see. That's the one thing is I can't justify seeing a movie in a theater on vacation. I've traveled all this distance. I'm in this new location. Why am I in a theater?
One of the most fun experiences I had seeing a movie in a theater while on my honeymoon was Return of the Jedi in Germany. So we were in Munich and we watched Return of the Jedi, the special edition in German.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
It was completely bonkers. And the movie was bad because I hated the whole Max Rebo band segment and all that kind of stuff. But the fact you couldn't understand what the hell anybody was saying, but I've seen the movie so many times, like my brain just translated
It was just auto
the
train.
entire movie. Yeah, it's like a babblefish in my ear.
And I'm sure Erica was like, "What did he say? What did he say?
Yeah, she was like, "What did I just get into?"
What did he say?"
She's like, "Why am I here?" Yeah.
You're in Germany on your honeymoon.
Yep.
In a movie theater.
Watching Star Wars in Germany.
Watching Star Wars. Yeah. That's just basically the moment right there if I'd done that at our honeymoon.
No.
Yeah, we'd be in St. Lucia right there with all the ocean and all the in a movie theater.
No, that's like the moment in Jewish culture where you put the two glasses in and wrap it and step on it. It's like, yep, this is it right here. That's this moment.
We're together forever. Take me with the good and the bad. This is the bad.
I think it's good.
But you probably think it's bad. So this is the good and the bad mixed together, just like that glass. It's all working.
Yep.
So yeah.